Verifying an identity, working with one side. Let's verify that the equation, the sum of cotangent s and 1 equals the product of the cosecant of s and the sum of cosine s and sine s. Although there is no substitute for experience when it comes to verifying identities, some helpful hints can get us started. One hint is to begin by trying to rewrite the more complicated side of the equation so that it's identical to the simpler side. Recall the list of fundamental identities. Choose the fundamental identity that is most likely to lead to the most direct beginning for our verification. Beginning with the more complicated side, let's substitute the reciprocal of sine s for cosecant s. Distributing and simplifying, the new expression becomes the sum of the quotient of cosine s and sine s and the quotient of sine s and sine s. Since the quotient of cosine s and sine s is the definition of cotangent s, and the quotient of sine s and sine s is 1, we have verified our identity. The given equation is an identity, since the right side equals the left side. Let's verify another identity. We will show that the product of the square of tangent t and the sum of 1 and the square of cotangent t equals the reciprocal of the difference of 1 and the square of sine t. Beginning with the more complicated side, let's distribute the square of tangent t. Now it's time to use one of the fundamental identities in our verification process. Which one should we choose? We use the fundamental identity that replaces the cotangent of an angle with the reciprocal of its tangent. Multiplying, we simplify the product of the square of tangent t and the square of its reciprocal to get 1. The sides still do not match. This means we have to select another substitution using a fundamental identity. Let's choose an identity that will help further our verification process. We use a direct substitution from the fundamental identity, the sum of the square of the tangent of t and 1 equals the square of the secant of t. We're almost there. Next, we'll use the definition of secant. Secant t is the reciprocal of cosine t, so the square of secant t equals 1 over the square of cosine t. One of the most useful of the fundamental identities is the sum of the squares of sine t and cosine t equals 1. Another hint for verifying is to be aware of equivalent forms of the fundamental identities. This alternative form, found by subtracting the square of sine t from both sides, gives us the substitution we need in our case. The reciprocal of the square of cosine t equals the reciprocal of the difference of 1 and the square of sine t. The identity is verified. So, we have substituted using the fundamental identities and verified another identity. Notice in both situations we worked with only one side, the more complicated side, and continued to rewrite it to match the other side.